Welcome to the Conscious Creative Podcast, your weekly dose of soul-to-soul conversation that will have you saying peace out to your 9 to 5 to explore in your sacred calling. The topics center around conscious business and interviews with the folks who started them. We'll be exploring the art of being human and what it takes to live your life fully expressed and financially free. I'm Christina Gomes, and I went from high-paying job as a psychotherapist to leaving it all behind for my desire to travel the world playing my original music, to becoming the CEO and soulpreneur founder of freeyourcreativity.org, where I help visionary leaders create the businesses of their wildest dreams. If you have a sacred calling, stick around. My prayer is that you become the permission slip for the collective as you hear the soul-inspiring stories that call you forth into creative action. Let's get to the soul. Welcome back, dear listener. Today we are talking about uplevels, how to know if you're in one, and what to actually do with that information. When you find out you're in an uplevel, great, now what? So as I am recording this podcast, it's pretty new on my podcasting journey. But if you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm no stranger to a good old-fashioned uplevel. So I'm happy to speak on my current uplevel that I'm experiencing now and the mini uplevels. Well, mini or many, some felt mini, some felt wildly expansive, but how I was able to take an uplevel and actually uplevel my life. So take the experience of an uplevel, which is not always what we think it is. It doesn't always look the same for each person, and it doesn't always feel the same every time that I uplevel. So maybe it doesn't feel the same every time you uplevel. And so you come across a feeling, whether it's like this contracted feeling that you may experience right before an uplevel, or you come across a desire, a feeling of, oh, here I am, this familiar feeling of something is about to happen. I'm not sure what it is yet, but you get these feelings, you get these downloads. So what it looks like for me, I can talk about the first time that I upleveled and that I recognized it as an uplevel. And this happened a few months after I was attacked in my office as a psychotherapist. So a few months went by of deep healing, of psychotherapy, but then I came to this stagnant feeling. I wasn't working anymore. I was feeling depressed. I felt like I had lost my purpose. And I wasn't about to just go and replace it with another 9 to 5. I mean, of course, I tried. I became a nanny. I went back to and fell back into the skills I already had. I was waitressing. So it's not that I wasn't going out there and making money, because we need money just to live our basic lives, but I wasn't feeling a purpose. So I fell into depression. I fell into a low grade level of depression that you couldn't even really detect. I just knew that there was something more for me. I knew that I didn't want to continue on the way that I was continuing on with these jobs that didn't give me a meaning. And I felt bored, really. I felt depressed, but I also felt bored. Like, shouldn't I be having fun? I also felt ungrateful and for good reason. So these are the emotions that I identified: bored, depressed, a little bit sad, ungrateful. But the experience in my body felt, just like icky, like burning on my skin, like just, and this anticipation, like waiting for something, anything, something that could take me out of just the sheer boredom I was feeling from no longer having a meaningful service to provide to the world. And then I started to feel a different kind of energy. I knew I couldn't stay like this anymore. So I started listening to podcasts. I started to read some books. I started to go to yoga a couple times extra a week. And I decided that I was going to go and get a yoga teacher certification. I didn't know why I wanted it. I didn't think that I was going to start making money as a yoga teacher. I just knew that I wanted to get out of my situation and I wanted to do something spectacular. So I started to look at yoga teacher trainings in other parts of the world. And I looked at one in Bali, actually, and I bought the ticket right away. I bought the ticket to Bali. And then I found out that actually the training was being held in Thailand. And I wanted this so bad. And I had trusted my decision so deeply that this school and these teachers were the teachers for me, that I went ahead and I changed my flights. I did all of the work to change my flights from Bali to Thailand. But you know what I felt? I felt a renewed sense of purpose again. Oh, wow. This feeling, can you feel it? I know that you've experienced it, where you went from contracted, you went from not knowing what to do, and you took a step. You took one step. You researched something, you read a book from front to end, you looked into the little downloads that you were receiving, you went a little bit deeper this time. And you started to feel a renewed sense of energy, of motivation, and a momentum. This is what it feels like to me to be in the middle of an up level. So the up level comes in waves. The up level begins from that moment of contraction and identifying it. So often and for so long, we live not becoming aware of that moment. People spend way too many years in jobs that are unsatisfying. People spend way too much money buying things that don't actually bring them happiness. And I mean, I love materials, don't get me wrong. There are certain materials that bring me sheer happiness, like this microphone, for one, that I'm speaking to you with. All of my tools that I get to use to run my business, and the beautiful clothes and jewelry that I get to adorn myself with. This does bring me joy. But when I started to invest in my self-development, this type of investment hit differently. And so I booked that ticket. I took the last of my savings at the time, a little bit of the last of it, and I booked a ticket to Bali, which ended up being a ticket to Thailand. But why I talk about that is because oftentimes we are moved by the desire, and that is good enough. Say I had gotten that awareness and I just sat with it. I just sat with the awareness that I was meant for something more, that I was bored, that I knew I had to do something, and I just sat with it but didn't do anything. Then we stay in the phase one of the up level, and it doesn't actually manifest the next level dreams, the next level results, the next level desires. They don't come fully because we stay in that phase one, the contracted phase. But it is a phase of the up level. So I want you, if you're there, if you're like, yeah, even if you've already begun your soulpreneur journey, but you are like, okay, I got my content out. I'm talking to people. I'm sharing my purpose. I've even worked with a few clients, and you're experiencing that, but you're getting a little bored. You're getting a little bit like, well, isn't there something more for me? Isn't there a new income level that is available for me? Well, here's the thing. You get to dream bigger. And you don't have to look at your ambition as something negative. You get to see that desire for something more as a holy desire, as that desire that is going to bring you to the next phase of your up level, which is that action taking phase. So this is the type of action that doesn't need a big fat plan. It doesn't need the whole formula. You don't need every piece of the puzzle mapped out for you before you go ahead and start putting the pieces together, right? So I took that action of booking the flight and I took that messy action. And now I talk to my clients now about the idea that you don't have to take messy action with the right support. But I'm so happy that I did take messy action. And that action was aligned action. So there is a difference between messy action and aligned action. And that action I took of buying the flights and turning out to be the wrong flights, and then me having to clean up that mess of talking to airlines and switching it over. I did that because I knew that this was the yoga teacher training I wanted. I knew that. I had done the research. I had looked into different teachers. I had compared prices, but it was beyond price. This was not the cheapest training. It was a knowing. It was a knowing beyond the obstacles. It was a knowing beyond the strategic and the logic. So I rebooked my flights and I went to Thailand. And I was one of the only trainees there that did go on and build a robust yoga career. I started teaching yoga all around the world, and that was so beautiful. And it was that action, that phase of, I'm going to take aligned action. I'm going to book my tickets. I'm going to show up in full trust, not knowing where this is going to lead. And it led me to teaching yoga classes, yoga workshops, sound healing classes. It led me around the world making money as a spiritual entrepreneur. So that phase of aligned action needs to happen in order for the manifestation, in order for what we desire fully, the end result to happen. So when I was thinking about being contracted, being bored, being just a bratty, ungrateful, desireful, longful person in the world, I didn't stay there too long. I researched my yoga school, I took that action, and it led to a bigger dream than I could have even imagined. It led me to this moment now where I now have a 6-figure business that I work 20 hours or less in a week that just satisfies my soul, and I have the best clients on the planet. So, that could be the ultimate end result of the up level if I take a look back and reverse engineer this up leveling experience, this totally expansive experience. Because when you think about your life, it has been an up level. You are evolving, you are expanding, and you can see where you have the mini up levels. You can see and feel into what that feels like for you. And then in your next up level, you're going to be able to notice. So I feel like we up level and then we plateau and we ride the results for a while. So ultimately, I'm here now with a 6-figure business, a podcast that's flowing, clients that are a dream to work with, so fun, that value our time together. And I am so satisfied with my business. I love every piece of it, even the parts that in the past I didn't love so much. I have grown to love every piece of my business because I know that even the moments of plateau or even the dips. So I want to talk a little bit about the dips, but even the dips are another indicator of another up level. So after I traveled the world teaching yoga workshops and sound healing sessions and song vocal empowerment sessions where I taught women medicine songs, all these beautiful, amazing spaces that I created for people who wanted to expand and grow and deepen and release. I got to do that work. And yet I, again, came to a point where, hey, this is fun. This has been fun. I'm working now for myself, wonderful. And yet I still needed to work for other people in order to make enough money to live, enough money to be in any sort of overflow. And this is because I undercharged at the time. I didn't see my value, and we learn as we go. But when I noticed that I was starting again to feel bored, to get those itchy feet, like, where's the next country? Where am I going to, meet the person that's going to hire me? I would think that as well. Who's going to give me my big break? I was also making music. Who's going to, give me a record deal? Like all sorts of things, because money was always on my mind. I've always been an entrepreneur and I had a lot of money blocks. So it wasn't so easy for me to make a lot of money until I learned what I teach now to my clients and in my program, Deep Money, to help you to deepen your relationship with money and elevate your prices, raise your prices so that you value your time, energy, presence, and wisdom, and other people do too. And yet, before I took myself through that deep money process, I was still accepting almost peanuts, pennies, change, literal coins in a hat to express, to live my expressive calling. So I was working now for my yoga teacher, and I was marketing, I was serving in those gifts, marketing and business skills and running her business. But I was working for under minimum wage, and I really didn't feel valued. I really didn't feel value. So I felt that dip again. I felt that dip. I had made an up level. Here I am working for myself I'm running, someone else's business. I'm working in a development niche, a special spiritual. I'm working for a spiritual development niche. And yet I'm feeling undervalued. And so that contracted feeling of not being able to fully express myself is the indicator for me of, one, I got to make some moves. I got to start, thinking about what are those actions, those aligned actions that I'm going to take to get me to the up level, to the desired result. So at that moment, I just desired to feel more free in my hours. So when I was working for someone else, I really felt like my ideas were genius. I've always had that. I'm like, these are pretty smart ideas. And so when I would offer my ideas and they weren't well received, and they weren't, at times my yoga teacher would say, I'm going to hire a professional on this one. And I would shrink down and think in my head, but aren't I a professional? I'm a professional. I've been sharing my message for years, teaching and bringing people into my business and into my world and into my mission and my message. And so I was a professional, but because my boss at the time didn't see, I started to let their belief of me contract me and lessen my vision. And so I know you have a big vision for your life and you have many, many ideas. And so maybe you're at the level where I was at, where the people that are your so-called bosses, they aren't really giving you full freedom to express yourself. And nor do they have to. Nor do they have to if this is their business and you're working for them. You're kind of stuck there, aren't you? And so for those of you in that level, I offer you the same phase that I offered myself in my very first up level that I can remember. Start taking those aligned actions. Now, again, I want to bring it back to messy action versus aligned action. And messy action, there's nothing completely inherently wrong with it. We all make some progress in that. But here's how to take aligned action is you get support. So you're here noticing the mistakes that entrepreneurs potentially make when they're on this journey of freedom and expression and soulpreneurship, a business that lights their soul on fire and helps a lot of people. The mistakes are that we stay too long listening to folks that don't have our best interest in mind, who haven't done what we want to do. And so in that up level, I reached out for support. I started to look all over the web on how to start my own business. And I hired my first courses. I started putting myself and immersing myself in programs and around the people that I knew were doing things in a way that I wanted to do them. And a small caveat is that I always listen to my heart more so than anything else. I listen to my desires more than anything else. And so from there, I really could only hire someone who also had those values. So, but that's for another up level. But in that up level, that moment, I drew a line in the sand and I said no more. And I quit that job. I quit that job. I hung up my desire to work for someone else, and I fully owned my desire to work for myself, and I never looked back. And that brought me to the third phase of that up level. And then the third phase is where the results manifest, where you're in the results and you're feeling like, wow, the action was worth it. And so that brought me to hosting my first ever online course on creative enhancement. 9 people bought. I was a stranger on the internet. And because of my marketing skills and my level of commitment and the way that I showed up and served my potential clients, 9 people jumped into my offer, my very first offer. Now, we won't get into how much money I made because I was still undercharging. I didn't see the value, and that is for another up level. But in that moment, I was so happy celebrating that I had got my business off the ground. I had bought the program Kajabi, which hosts my first course. Then it hosted my second course. Then it and still runs my business today. And I went all in. Now, if you'd like an affiliate link for the program Kajabi, this is how I run my business, my analytics. I host my courses, I send my emails, and I even host my podcast there. So just, I'm going to leave the affiliate link in the show notes, and I invite you to check that out. But beyond that, it was a commitment. It was a commitment to my business to have this monthly expense, to put myself on the map and say, I have a course. I'm going to create more courses that turned into group coaching programs and mentorships and retreats. And this just keeps getting better. My business keeps growing because I am the person who up levels. You are a person who up levels because most people are here for evolution. Of course, I mean, you can regress. People can regress, but that's not you, you know? You have an up level and then you plateau. And when you start to feel that dip, this is how you don't regress. When you feel that plateau energy or you start to feel a contraction, you know that the contractions are the indicator that something is about to happen. Just like giving birth, the contractions are the indicator that it's time. We're about to make a baby. We're about to create this thing. It's coming out, you know, it's being birthed. And so this podcast was birthed in that way. My first creativity course was birthed in that way. Every offer that I put out is birthed in that way of going, hey, am I in a plateau? Am I fine here? Or is it time? Is it time, really, divine timing for the next thing? Because I want to also invite you, if you're at a certain place and you're in that plateau phase and you're starting to feel bored or you're starting to feel like, I want to make a new offer, I want you to ask yourself where this is coming from. And this might be the time to invest in higher level support, because that is where I was able to see that sometimes my plateaus are riding that up level and I don't need to go, up level so fast that I burn out. So I wanted to offer you that flip side as well, that I want you to have fast growth. I want you to grow in a way that feels good, that feels aligned. And if that's fast growth, you got it. I'm right alongside you. My growth has been fast in 1 year of deciding to go all in on my business and put out my first creativity offer, I made, in my first year of putting out my offer, I made a few $1,000s when I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to take decades, right? Or I'm going to have to lose money for how long? I made a bit of money. And then the year I decided to really go all in on my business, I replaced my income as a psychotherapist. So that was about $50,000 a year. And now looking back and studying what coaches make and looking into that, that's actually really fast growth where most coaches make a quarter of that or, half that and quit because it really, that's just us getting going because there is no ceiling. That's why we get to up level fast because the year later, I doubled that and made my first $100,000 in 1 year. So now I've made over, at the time of this recording, $170,000 in my conscious transformational business as an educator, as a coach, as a mentor. And it started with that first up level of quitting my job, working for someone else, getting better support, and then getting better support, and then getting better support, and then getting the kind of support that helped me not to do all the time, but helped me to raise my energy levels and be able to hold more. And so that's the key to fast elevation is we don't just do more and grow before we've actually set the infrastructure in our businesses and the infrastructure within our cells. We align that, our cells and our ability to really have enough energy to work with the kinds of clients that we want to work with in an up level and the amount of clients. So in the beginning of my business, I didn't have that many clients and they weren't paying me that much. But as I up leveled, I also saw that I was ready to work with a higher caliber kind of client, the kind of client that didn't just want a self-paced, low-cost course that they didn't really even look at. And I didn't want to make that kind of money. I wanted to make the kind of money that hit the heart. I wanted to make the kind of money that meant something. I wanted to make the kind of money that meant I was making real change in the world. And the kind of change I was making from my low-cost courses and offerings was minimal compared to the amount of change that I create in the world through having my high-level offers and my mentorship program. And so when I up leveled for the third time, it began with looking at who I wanted to work with next. What were the qualities of the people that I wanted to call in? And I just owned that I wanted to call in people who were so committed to their self-development and growth that they wanted to invest high amounts of money. And this brought me to a third up level, where I also invested in myself more than I ever had in the past. In 1 year, I invested $60,000 in my business, including team, including mentorship, including courses, and a retreat. And these were investments in myself and in my business growth intentionally. Not to mention the self-development programs I took that were on love and relationships. So I wanted to give you this transmission. I wanted to give you this transmission that when you are looking to call in more money, call in more clients, call in clients that value their self-development, you get to take that action, not knowing the full results on the other side, but take that action in the form of working with that next level mentor, in the form of buying that ticket to go sit beside someone that you want to be around. Go take that retreat. Invest in yourself and in your business in ways that you haven't in the past, and people are going to feel that from you. So those next level investments bring next level results, and then you become an energetic match for an up-leveled life. You become an energetic match for big money months. You become an energetic match for the kinds of clients that send you love notes and gifts and testimonials that you get to share to make even more bigger, better change in the world. So I know that upleveling doesn't always feel easy because of that first phase. So let me break down the phases for you one more time before we close this beautiful podcast episode. But that first phase is that feeling of desiring something more, that longing. So I'd love for you to identify what that looks like for you. Do you feel contracted? Do you feel a bit of excitement or anxiousness even? Do you feel burning on your skin? Do you feel like you have a premonition that something is about to happen? And then that brings you to that second phase that many people don't actually take. So if you've taken that second phase, if you've taken that second step, or you're about to, know that you are the type of person that is going to up level and up level often. You are going to have the life that you desire, because that second phase, that's for you. And that is that action. That is that aligned action, that first action, that pressing the buy button on that next level mentorship. That's going on the trip of your dreams. And then you meet the person of your dreams. It's really sinking in to the marketing that you want to have in your business, going live, creating a podcast, hosting a group, sharing your voice and creating content in a way that others would deem bold. That's your action. And you go for it. You own it. You own that phase 2. You let your energy expand so that the phase 3 of living the gifts, living the dream, living the result, you know that you got there intentionally. You know that you are made for this. You know that you deserve this. You're owning the up level. So in this current up level that I'm experiencing as I record this, I just signed a lease on a year-long contract on this beautiful villa, lakeside, got an infinity pool, a jacuzzi. I'm able to host. I got a kitchen the size of my last studio apartment. And it's been so beautiful. Now, even though I'm recording this episode in a closet for sound purposes in this small space, I have let my energy expand throughout the space, having a beautiful room that is for a studio, music studio, once I can soundproof it, and having the space to be able to work outside and still have it in privacy. It's these little things that if I didn't take action, if I didn't spend more, 3 times more than I ever had in rent to get into this villa, then I wouldn't be experiencing all the space that I feel, all the time, all the energy. And I feel it. I feel so much energy to be able to record this podcast. I signed 2 brand new mentorship clients that are just so hitting the ground running. They're exactly who I intentionally called in with my message. And I'm so happy to provide so much for these clients. Like, I'm even surprised how deep we go on our coaching calls, and they have access to me outside of our coaching calls, and how much space I have just to speak with them about anything that they are going through, so that I can help them to make it through their up levels as well, put out their offers, call in their dream clients, and create the businesses that they are wildly in love with, that bring them big money month after month after month. I intentionally created this life. And I want to help you intentionally create the life that you are meant for. And if that means you feel a little bit contracted and you gotta kind of do some things that are uncomfortable, take some actions that you've never taken before, then I invite you to go ahead and do that. That's that next step for you. That's that phase 2 that's going to get you to the results that you really desire. So I'm so thrilled that we got to have this conversation today. Please, if you're feeling called, leave a review on all the places that podcasts exist. And I would be so happy to say hello to you. Reach out to me if you have any questions on your own personal up level. I love talking to the folks who are deep in my world, listening to this podcast in my group for wild, wealthy, and well-known soulpreneurs. Wherever you're listening, please know that you are ready. If you feel contracted, that's the indicator. If you feel a little excited, a little anxious even, that's the indicator. And you can know that you can trust yourself to make that necessary action to bring you the results you're after. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for being here.